Coming up on today's show, we are going to explore the idea of signing Myles Jack as Pro Football Focus suggested, and we're going to look at all the options for Cleveland in this linebacker room. That's a bit of a question mark in terms of availability and health going into the season. So all that and more coming up right now. Today's Browns Report is sponsored by Hexclad. They have the best pots and pans in the dishware game. Plus, they are offering the Dawg Pound 10% off when you use our exclusive link. That is hexclad.com/chat. We'll tell you more about them later on. Now, let's talk about Myles Jack, because there has been some discourse, some conversations about Cleveland adding another linebacker. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at the fact that all the starting linebackers ended the year on IR in 2022. Maybe they should add some depth, and that's what PFF thought as well. They had an article go out with one signing or extension all 32 teams should make, and for the Browns, it was adding Myles Jack. Now, he was a second-round pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars back in 2016 out of UCLA. His PFF ranking last year, not superb. 65th out of 81 qualifying linebackers. Now, this is what Brad Spielberger from PFF had to say. One more piece in the front seven, namely depth at off-ball linebacker with Anthony Walker Jr. coming off a tough injury, would help continue to shore up the interior of this Browns defense at all three levels. Myles Jack will still be just 28 years old for the duration of the 2023 season and has posted a missed tackle rate below 10% in 3 straight seasons. His 76 defensive stops against the run over that span ranked 12th among off-ball linebackers. So, before we get to know Myles Jack a little bit better as an individual player and whether or not he would be a good addition for any team, the first thing I want to address is, do the Browns need a linebacker, right? Is this a need for Cleveland? And I would say yes, but I don't think everyone in Berea would agree with me. I think the Browns are banking on a health boost, right? All three starting linebackers and the fourth starting linebacker last year spent some time on IR, right? When you look at the games missed in 2022, Anthony Walker, starting linebacker, went down against the Steelers early on. Jacob Phillips missed 10 games. Unfortunately, he has never been healthy so far in his young NFL career. Former third-round pick out of LSU has just never been available for a long stretch. JOK ended the year on IR, and Taki went down in the Texans game with an ACL injury. So my prediction is once training camp gets underway, which, by the way, is 3 weeks away, July 22nd, at the Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia, the Browns will have a much better idea of whether or not this group is going to be healthy for the start of the season, right? Once the pads come on and the players are back with the trainers after this 5-6 week summer break following minicamp, Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, the whole coaching staff will meet with those injured players, will meet with the coaches, with the trainers, and go, all right, what's the timeline for Anthony Walker and Taki coming back on the field? Because now we're getting close to September, and hey, if they're on the PUP list to start the season or start training camp, and they are going to be on IR to miss the first few weeks of the season, maybe the Browns then explore adding a linebacker. But I don't think in the middle of July or early July, they are in a rush to do so, right? They are going to wait it out, wait to get a better idea of when some of those players are going to return, and if it's longer rather than sooner, maybe Myles Jack does enter the conversation at that point. Now, before we get on to the rest of today's show, it is time to talk about your kitchen. And no, not talking about your roommate's dishes or your sink. Today's sponsor, Hexclad, has revolutionized the cookware industry with a hybrid pan that gives you all the convenience and cleanup of nonstick, the versatility of your grandma's cast iron, and a lifetime warranty just in case you find a way to destroy them. Now, use our promo code CHAT at hexclad.com/chat for 10% off. Hexclad truly checks every single box when it comes to picking your cookware, right? They are metal utensil safe, dishwasher safe, and oven safe up to 500 degrees. And you don't have to take my word for it. My favorite celebrity chef, Gordon Ramsay, he uses them at home as well. The sear I get with these pants is incredible, with absolutely no stick. The temperature control is utter perfection, and the cleanup is effortless. I love using Hexclad at home. The only question is, does Gordon Ramsay love throwing Hexclad from the red kitchen into the blue kitchen? But they are the sexiest pants on the market, so you can also score some points at home. It's time to stop ordering takeout and spending a fortune on delivery food. Start cooking at home thanks to Hexclad. Real cuisine isn't made in the microwave, it's cooked in a Hexclad. So for a limited time, you can get 10% off with our special link, hexclad.com/chat. That's 10% off at hexclad.com/chat. That link's in the comments and the description of today's show. Now, getting back to the linebacker portion of today's video, the second part I want to raise when it comes to signing Myles Jack or signing any linebacker for that matter, I think the Browns are going to be rolling out with 2 linebacker sets a lot more often in 2023 than they were in 2022. And if that's the case, they probably don't feel like they have to add another linebacker if everyone is healthy. Big if. But if they believe everyone's going to be healthy, whether it's in the first week or 2 weeks of the season, and they're already going to use some 2 linebacker sets, well, they might not think they need to waste another roster spot on a player who's not going to get a lot of snaps. Here's what Mary Kay said a few weeks ago about the defensive line. The Browns will also use 5-down linemen a lot, meaning they'll often have those 4 on the field as well as another defender based on matchups. So if they do roll out with 5 defensive linemen frequently, as Jim Schwartz likes to do, Okoronkwo, Za'Darius Smith, I think Jordan Elliott would be the next man up, but that's definitely a training camp battle. Dalvin Tomlinson and Myles Garrett would be your 5-down linemen. So then when you move to the second level, you're only going to have 2 linebackers, right? Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome at cornerback, probably rotate Martin Emerson in as well. JOK and Anthony Walker as your 2 linebackers, and then you have your 2 safeties, Delpit and Thornhill, and that's your 11 on defense right there. Now, if Walker and JOK are not healthy at the start of the season, they fear they might miss more than just a week or 2, sure, adding Myles Jack or adding a linebacker would make a lot of sense. But if you're only going to roll with 2 linebackers for a good portion of your schemes and plays and whatnot, you probably don't need to be 6 linebackers deep, right? You can probably roll with 4 to 5 off-ball linebackers, and if that's the case, you already have that. In JOK, Anthony Walker, Taki, Tony Fields, Jacob Phillips, and I like some of the UDFA signings they had as well, and even a guy like Matthew Adams, for example, who's kind of an under-the-radar free agent acquisition. Now, before we get on to the rest of the show, 4th of July tomorrow, and I got an off-the-wall question here. What is the most underappreciated 4th of July item, like food, drink, whatever you're thinking? For me, my rule I live by, like my Phil Dunphy rules, anytime you can get a corn dog, you have to buy a corn dog. They're not sold enough. So if you're ever in a spot where a corn dog is on the menu, there's a corn dog truck, there's a corn dog stand, I'm getting a corn dog, right? Corn dogs, Jackie, corn dogs for all these people. So let me know what your corn dog is down in the comment section. Now let's talk about Myles Jack as a player specifically, because last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers, after 6-7 seasons with the Jacksonville Jaguars, he was good. 104 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. The issue is he never really had an impact play. No sacks, no forced fumbles, no interceptions. Never had that game-changing play that got the defense off the field or something like that, right? He was just in the middle of the defense, and the defense funneled a lot of the plays to him, so we got 104 tackles. Now, his career PFF grades have dipped the last couple of years, right? You go back to 2020 with a nice 69.1 overall grade, and it has slipped since then, bad in 2021, and you can see why Jacksonville moved on from him. And then with the Steelers last year, just kind of below-ish average, right? Not someone that I think has absolutely done in the NFL. He's cooked. But not someone that screams, I'm a starting linebacker still in the NFL. At least not for teams that want to be competitive. So I'm on board with Myles Jack coming off the bench, filling in for some weeks if there's an injury, until Walker and Taki are 100% healthy. But I don't think Myles Jack is a starting linebacker for 17 weeks anymore. I think that part of his game might be behind him. But hey, the Browns learned over the last couple of years they do not have a reliable linebacker core, right? JOK has never played a full season. Anthony Walker has flirted with the injury team throughout 2 seasons in Cleveland. Jacob Phillips has never been healthy. Taki's coming off a torn ACL. The list goes on and on. So it might not be a bad idea for Cleveland to invest in a nice quality backup like Myles Jack, who is more than likely going to have to fill in for some time throughout the season, because I just don't see a way this linebacker room gets 100% healthy to start the season and stays that way throughout the entire season. Another thing that I will mention is you do want to sign someone who could offer some upside in special teams. I'm not quite sure if Myles Jack is a good special teamer. But I also will say, could this be the 2023 version of Deion Jones, right? Where Deion came over last season. He got traded after the the Chargers game. I can't recall. But the point was he got traded after a dreadful performance from the run defense. And he ended up starting for the second half of the season once the injuries started to pile up. And I thought he played pretty well. 44 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. So could Myles Jack be someone that maybe they add mid-season like Deion Jones if injuries start popping up or players aren't performing well and they go to Myles and say, we don't need you to start 17 weeks for this team. We need you to come in and play 8 weeks of good football. Can you do that for us? When it comes down to the 53-man roster predictions, I'm going to roll with these 6 players. JOK, Anthony Walker, Taki, Tony Fields. I have Jordan Kunashik as a bit of a surprise name. He has played well so far throughout OTAs and minicamp. Granted, it's just off-season practices, but I've liked what I've seen, and so has Jim Schwartz. He even rocked his jersey one day. And then Matthew Adams is probably not a name that most people remember being signed this offseason, but he could be a very good special teamer. And when you're looking for the 48th to the 53rd man on the roster, you need some special teams upside, and Matthew Adams can bring that. Before we get to the rest of today's show, I just want to give a quick shout-out to those of you in our Noti gang, Kimberly Hurst, Ray Bidding, Emilio Rivera, Gray Coke, all of you guys, frequent commenters right when the video goes out. So if you want to be in the Noti gang, turn your notifications on, hit the bell icon. When a video goes out, be one of the first to comment, and we will give you a shout-out on a future show. Before we get on out of here, I had to address a story that has been making its way around Browns Twitter, if you are still able to read tweets. And it was about Baker Mayfield commenting on his last few years, doing an interview with the New York Post or something like that. And the word that's been tossed around is fun, or lack of fun, that he had with Cleveland. And it's got some people worked up. So let's look and see what Baker actually said. I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. It was the first time I had fun playing football in a few years. It brought that feeling of having that success and really remembering what it was all about. Kind of hit the reset button for me. I think these headlines of Baker Mayfield slanders the Browns on his way out or anything in that realm is kind of misleading. Baker's not wrong. I'm sure last year with the Rams at the end, taking down the Raiders in a huge 98-yard fourth-quarter comeback was a lot of fun for him because it hasn't been fun lately. What was fun in Carolina? He sucked. The team sucked. The coach got fired. What was fun is last year in Cleveland, right? He had a separated shoulder, a torn labrum 2 weeks into the season. That's not fun, right? The last time he had fun with the Browns really was taking down the Steelers because after that it was losses. So I don't think this is a earth-shattering take right here by Baker to say he hasn't had fun in the last couple of years. It hasn't been a fun couple of years for Baker Mayfield. I don't think that's a dig at Cleveland saying because of the Browns it wasn't fun to play football anymore. No, it wasn't fun to play football anymore because he had half a shoulder to throw with. Like, that's not fun in any situation. So whenever you see or when you see these headlines of Baker Mayfield disses the Browns, think he's dissing the Browns. I think he's dissing the fact that it's not fun to play football with a torn labrum and then to lose and suck in Carolina. I, too, would not call that fun. But here's a question I've got for everyone before we get you on out of here. Will Baker be a starting quarterback in 2024? 2023 sort of feels like his last chance to continue to be viewed as a potential starting quarterback, right? if things don't go well in Tampa and Kyle Trask takes over, or Kyle Trask starts week 1, I just don't know many GMs going into 2024, albeit a long ways away, viewing Baker as a starting option. And if Baker's not viewed as a starting option, when teams look at backup quarterbacks, they look at guys who are fun to have in the locker room. And not that Baker's not fun to have in the locker room, but does Baker's personality scream, I'm good to be a backup, I can't wait to hold the clipboard? I get very little Chase Daniels vibes from Baker Mayfield. And that's a pretty important thing to have as a backup if you want to stick around as a long-time backup in the NFL. So give me your thoughts in the comment section. It is my favorite time of the day. Pick a card time. Producer Trace Gerard with us today. Trace, what card are you going with on the 3rd of July, the eve of our great nation's independence?
I'm going 4 of diamonds.
Keep diamonds?
The 4, get the shine bright like the diamonds at the fireworks. I'm feeling good about it.
That's a good pander pick. I'm not going to lie. I like it.
Thank you.
I don't want to go with the 4 because you got the 4. So I don't want to double dip. Put me down for, we took down the king, right, when we, 4th of July.
Yeah.
So I got it once on King of Diamonds. How about King of Spades?
Love it.
King of Spades. All right, one more cut for good measure. 5 of Spades.
Dang.
5 of Spades. That is it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Enjoy your 4th of July, and we will catch up with everyone on the 5th.